This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Revolution on K4HD, Hollywood Talk and TV Radio. Let me introduce your host. With no further ado, Dr. Robert J. Newton. Hey, namaste. This is Dr. Newton, and I'm going to talk about something more than nothing or nothing. All right. Well, actually, with all those disclaimers at the beginning of the show, I guess, oh, man. You know, I went to law school and I graduated in 1975. And I'm telling you, I thought it was pretty forked up back then. In fact, I knew it was, which is why the only place I ever worked is a little bit at Legal Aid Society, where I realized that the little guy was going to get squished in the system. So all my idealistic perceptions about helping the people that needed to be helped were kind of rendered asunder, dispersed, and I don't know everything about this. You know, if someone asks me, I will do a show about the legal system, exposing how diabolical it is, and actually how to get around it, since I've created a forum to do such. Which takes you out of the clutches of the commercial law, Uniform Commercial Code, military law, maritime law, which was illegally used to squash the common law, except that because it was illegal, they put one section in there that allows you to rebut the presumption that that law applies to you. So I've done a lot of studying on that, and I have a form that does it. I fill it out for you. It costs $100. It should get you out of traffic tickets. It should keep you out of court. I'm getting ready to test that soon, since one of my tenants seems to think I owe them money, which I don't. They owe me a ton. And I guess they like opening Pandora's box, because I was just going to let all that stuff go, which is probably close to a couple $1,000s of damage that they did to my place, despite their saying, quote unquote, oh, we left the place in pristine condition. Yeah, more like pristine condition. Come on. All right. There's a lot of people. Wow. There's a lot of people walking around deluding themselves. And I understand why. This particular person was in the child care system, the state system. I forget the name for it. And I think that she had a lot of horrible experiences. And so it's tainted everything that she does. And even beyond that, she just is a nice person, but she just makes things up and pulls them right out of Uranus, not the planet, and voices them as fact, which they're not. So, anyway, let's move beyond that. We have a lot to do today. I'm getting pulled sideways into bullshit that I don't really want to go into. All right, so actually, I wanted to read some stuff from the beginning of my book, Mary Magdalene, but I don't have the book printed out yet, and I don't know how to do split screen here yet, if I can even do split screen here. I think I did it on Zoom before. Yeah, I did. Anyway, so let's see. Let's see what happens.
Dr. Newton, if you wanted to, you can make the screen like half the size and then pull something up on a different side of the screen. On one screen, you can.
I'm looking at the icons at the bottom. I don't
No,
see.
no, no, not at the very bottom, at the very top where it would have an X.
Oh, okay.
If you make that screen, a partial screen, you can still see whatever else you want to see on your computer.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens. Thank you. This is my engineer, Rebel Meddler, and I consider a co-host. By the way, have you had anything, Rebel? Have you experienced or heard anything you find unusual or highly ridiculous over this last week since the last time I talked to you?
Yes, actually, something new has come up.
Okay, well, go for it.
All right, I was informed that since the current president, he has now hired a whole bunch of IRS agents and armed them. They're going to start looking into people's bank accounts, and if you have $10,000 in one account, they're going to audit you for no apparent reason. It's like, even if this money's been sitting there forever, you're just going to pop up and say, where did it come from? Well, let me see. How's that going to work out for you? And if you make a
Yeah.
purchase over $1,000, they're going to want to know what you're purchasing and why you're purchasing it. What's that about?
Okay, well, I'll bend over and they can look up my Uranus.
I mean, have you heard of such a thing? Why would they do that?
Well, there was this saying that I thought that they were going to defund it when with all of this pork and stuff money that they threw into the economy and for solar projects and things like that. And by the way, I keep thinking of Solandra when under Obama when this money that he did something similar to this thing and it went to Solandra to do solar projects. And nary a solar project was actually created, but it's okay because they're Democrats, and I'm not a Republican, but I am an independent, and I would I would never want to be a Democrat. I was a long time ago before I knew better. Anyway, so yeah, so there was supposed to be a whole bunch. They were supposed to hire 83,000 more IRS agents or something like that. Possibly it's related to that. And you can also be sure, do you not think that no Democrats will get, known Democrats will get audited, but all the Republicans will. Do you think? What do you think?
Anything's possible these days. It's so crazy. I just don't understand. I really started. It's like, yeah, I don't have that kind of money, but if you mean to tell me if I had $10,000 or more in one bank account, they're just going to start asking questions,
Yeah,
and
well, that's
and
another
then what?
thing. Yeah, yeah, it will be endless. So one way someone can protect themselves, I just created a revocable living trust, but I'm going to go much further than that at the behest of my son. Um, so one way to deal with that is to create an asset protection trust, and people are going to need to do that if they don't want the shakedown. It's like how come Joe Biden had to set up 20 shell companies, shell company. Um, that type of corporations that were shell companies so that they could, what did, and they don't even have any businesses, other than the grifting business that they have. Hunter Biden is not even going to have to pay any back taxes. Someone paid him for him. Imagine that.
But wait a minute, Hunter doesn't have all the problems that they threw on the ex-president. He had all kinds of trouble with all kinds of people saying, "Oh, you didn't pay taxes."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what's
Yeah,
why is it good for one and not for the other?
because if it, well, let me say this. This is not exactly to the point, but I'm being a wise ass. If you're If you're, no, wait a minute. Let me get this right. If you're black and you don't vote for me, there's something wrong with you. Okay. Um, yeah, it's very partisan. The partisanship has gotten into the bureaucracy too, in a big time, in the FBI. I mean, it's obvious that's what's going on. I watched Christopher Wray, the FBI director. They were asking him questions, and I could tell he was evasive. And I wish that I had been there, so that I could have put his balls in a vice and squeezed it so that he had to kind of start singing and telling the truth. Those, I'm not criticizing the Republicans investigating all of this. They're doing a lot of work, but they're getting stonewalled all the way. They're getting stonewalled on Joe Biden's taxes. I heard that Joe Biden has hired a big team of very expensive attorneys because he knows that the gauntlet is coming, that he's getting ready to have to go through the gauntlet. The gauntlet is a thing where there's all these things swinging back and forth with knives on them, and you've got to run through it without getting chopped up. Or like the birds get chopped up in the solar turbines, the wind turbines. So, well, you asked me last week, Rebel, to do some research on lab-grown meat, and that's part of today's show. How come they want us to eat lab-grown meat and insects? Okay, so yeah, I'm not quite ready for my cucaracha burger. That's cockroach in Spanish, but if you want to eat them, go ahead. The insects all
No,
have.
thank you.
No, thank you.
As
How
a no,
about
thank you.
How about if I put some chipotle sauce on it? Would that
No,
help?
no, thank you.
How about if I put some Cajun sauce on it from
Not
Louisiana?
not even with Cajun sauce. Roaches just aren't the thing.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, and I've talked about it before, right? I talked about how I did some research because I knew there was something wrong. I have this big giant bullshit filter, and I have to clean it all the time because so much comes into it, and hey, it's almost overwhelming. It is overwhelming. Oh, cancel. I don't want to say it's overwhelming. Then I wouldn't be able to clean it up. So this lab-grown meat, what it is and this is what I suspected, although I didn't answer last week. They take cells from an animal and they divide them in these vats under controlled conditions and everything. And apparently it tastes just like meat. I'm not sure if it's supposed to look like meat too. Okay, so Rebel, well, let me ask you, would you be willing to pay more for your lab-grown meat than for regular meat?
No.
Well, that's what you're going to have to do because it's not even economically feasible. First, I found out that even though they're working on it with beef and I guess pork too, so far they've only created chicken, which is about 5 times more expensive than regular chicken right now. So
they're just going to pass everything off as, it tastes like chicken and let us think it's okay?
yeah, apparently. Hey, did you know that? Well, I heard this. I haven't been able to verify it or not. It's really hard to verify anything anymore. I was looking up some stuff about global warming that I'm going to be going in today because it's been very hot. And has that heat gotten into Louisiana too?
Oh, yes.
What's the temperature?
Currently,
No, what's the highest temperature in the last few days?
feels like 120.
And what's the humidity? 90%?
100.
It's raining pennies from heaven. No, it's not raining pennies from heaven. That would
It
make
was too hot to rain. It was literally too hot to rain because even if it was going to rain, it would have evaporated before it hit the ground.
Is that cool? What? Now, I just had an idea. Maybe we could put number 46, that President 46, maybe we could put him in the atmosphere around there and he would evaporate. All right. So they're touting the benefits of this. So they do have it right now. And there's a few restaurants. Gourmet restaurants, Michelin star restaurants, one on the New York City and one another place. I think San Francisco. Well, two of the most screwed up places on earth. So perfect place, right? Cuckoo, cuckoo. Oh, by the way, I must show off my beautiful stone that I polished, but I didn't do the wire wrap because my fingers are too damn big. But
Very nice.
this was given to me by someone that I bought a lot of stuff for me at the Searchers Gem and Mineral show in Anaheim a few months ago. And she was so happy at the deals that I gave her. She brought me these back. She says, she went all the way home, 45 minutes back home, and then came back and gave me these fossilized clams that she says were turquoise. But I don't think this is turquoise. I think it's chrysocolla. But either way, it doesn't matter because it has a lot of copper in it. And copper is has electrical properties to it.
Nice. Very
So
nice.
anyway, anyone that really wants that, it's $95. And I paid just, for instance, I think $45 just for the wrapping on it. So as you can see, and I spent several hours working to stone myself. So as you can see, there's not much profit margin in it. But will definitely energize the body. And I'm going to talk about electrons and stuff in a minute, but let's get back to the lab-grown meat. So this hasn't worked too well with beef so far, but they said they're working on it and they'll have it. So they're touting it as, well, this is a way not to kill animals. Okay, so I kind of like that idea because that's why I stopped eating meat in like 1982 or 3, something like that. But I'm not for stopping people from eating it, and I would definitely not say you should eat lab-grown meat. And one of the things when I was doing some landscaping work on the Wedderburn farm in Culpeper County in Virginia back in late 80s, early 90s. It was a big cattle farm that was going to be subdivided in a bunch of houses. I'm sure there's 5 or 6 houses, 6,000 houses that they planned for there. And I haven't been back to see it. Probably make me throw up because I like open spaces. I noticed that they were jabbing all of the beef there. Like the vet was there and he was going like this, and going to the next one like this, really fast. They were shooting them with antibiotics and they were shooting them with growth hormone, steroids. So recently I heard, and I can't verify this, that they're also giving the COVID vaccine to the cattle herds. So if anyone knows about this, has some substantial thing, I would like to know. I'm very curious, but I wouldn't be surprised. One of the things that they're saying about the lab-grown meat is, well, you don't have to worry about viruses and bacteria transferring from humans to animals. It rarely, if ever, happens. And if it does, it's because you've used a mutated virus that allowed it to occur. Because it has. Go ahead.
You don't have to worry about it being in there because they're going to put every goddamn thing they want in it already built in.
Thank
what
you.
they tried to do is
you.
juice the animals, but now if they're building it in a freaking lab,
in a vat,
automatically going to have everything that they want to put in you in there. So think about that.
Think about it. Thank you. Wow, thank you for stealing my line, but that's fine. I want your participation. That's exactly where I was going. I was going to stop them from putting whatever the hell they want to do to control us, to control our minds, to make us zombies, to walk around in a stupor and accept less, accept starvation, accept limitations on travel. This is what it's all going to. That's what I'm seeing. Okay. And furthermore, so I talked about it before. Remember when I talked about last week or the week before, I talked about how they want to eliminate 11,000 of the farms which have cattle and dairies, to combat nitrogen emissions. Now that's the new Diablo del Dia, or the devil of the day, the new one.
Why don't they find, if they can invent all this fake crap, why don't they take the time to figure out how to use those supposed emissions from cow farts to make something else? Why can't we power something with that?
Nitrogen. With nitrogen, it's not combustible to the best of my knowledge, but it could be used in fertilizer. It could be captured and used in fertilizer. And that's their thing. They're saying, well, these excess nitrogen things, they could be really dangerous. Well, and they say a lot of it's coming from the synthetic fertilizer they use, and that's true.
So what's going to happen when we start eating their synthetic stuff that they're making? What's going to start happening to our emissions?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to watch and let someone else do it, because I'm not going to do it. I don't eat real meat, and I'm not going to eat synthetic meat. And a really good friend of mine that's he's like 10 years older than me. He's 80. He's like, I think he's like 85, and his name is Don, and he is a dairyman. He is objecting to, and he had a dairy where they didn't pasteurize the milk and everything, which destroys all the usefulness in it, destroys all the enzymes and all the vitamins and minerals, and also that's what causes people to become lactose intolerant, because they're lactose intolerant because, you've killed the lactase enzyme by heating it up to 118 degrees. Oh, go figure. Golly gee, I don't know why I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, so have you ever had raw milk?
No.
Well, it tastes a little different, probably because that lactase, which is a sugar, well, it's actually a sugar, is more intact in it. So it has a different taste, and it's much more healthier for you. But everyone's been told that it's too dangerous to drink unpasteurized milk, so they don't do it. And they keep making it more difficult to the dairies that do it. There's very few that do it. But I was talking to my friend Don, and he was telling me, yeah, you have to keep your cattle clean and all of this, and you can't. And he said the Dutch dairymen, they force their cows to create as much milk as possible, whereas us Portuguese dairymen, we don't do that. We look for the health of our cow. He says the cow doesn't last that long if you're forcing it to overproduce beyond what it should. And yeah, that's within the parameters of the way the Creator laid things out. But man is so much smarter than the Creator. Yeah. Okay. And I used to get this. I used to get this raw butter. I really liked it, but that's almost impossible to find. I still can get some raw cheese from Altadena Dairy. Once the Stubbe brothers, who are Dutch, sold the Altadena Dairy in California, things started changing, and Like I said, they stopped doing the raw milk and all of that because you have to be assiduous and everything. It costs you more money, and it costs more money to buy it. But if you're going to drink something that's crap in the first, if you drink what's that milk that's for lactose and lactate, yeah, because they take the pasteurized milk, then they infuse it with lactase, so you can actually digest it. Why not just do the raw milk? Or would that be too much of a stretch? Do we have any questions?
Not yet.
Wow. I'm lonely, so lonely. No, I'm not lonely, but you could call me and I will answer any question. I will let you express your ideas, but try to keep it with facts and not opinions, which I'm not a big fan of, including my own. Okay, so that's the deal on that. And they're talking about, okay, so and it's just it's stops methane emissions and the carbon dioxide, and it stops the transference of viruses from human and bacteria from human to animals and things like that. And again, this goes back to the baloney of the bats being the genesis of the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm not denying that they sequenced in genetic manipulation, they sequenced in some bat DNA, but it did not transfer across naturally from humans. And and uh, even some mainstream doctors are admitting that right now. More and more are, but then some aren't because they're afraid of losing their medical license. I mean, I was just doing this. I was just doing a search this morning about the heat. So let's go into the heat. So it's interesting because as I said on my show before, that I've resurrected from the ashes, Solution Revolution. We are definitely going into an ice age. So you would say, well, you're full of Shiite, Doc, because it's getting hotter. Well, let's just look at this. All right. I remember a man that I respected immensely, Dr. Thomas Bearden. I think he was a colonel in the Army. He also worked in high positions in the government, in intelligence and things like that. Intelligence gathering and scientific things too. The guy's mind, it was really fun talking to him because he was open to everything. And I remember a few years ago those pictures that he showed of that tornado that came through Oklahoma area. I mean, it was devastating. It was a super tornado, and it tore the shit out of any place it touched down. And he was actually showing that there were scalar waves that were, which are crescent shaped, that you could see, like crescent shaped clouds in the matrix of that storm and everything. And then he also showed how they were in hurricanes and things like that. So those scalar waves are basically generated from there's a scalar complex in the United States in Fairbanks, Alaska. There's supposed to be some off of Africa. I know India, China, and Russia have them, and we could be bombarding each other and sabotaging each other in that manner. But so if you can intensify a storm, why could you not also intensify, heat up the atmosphere? So I looked this morning before the show. I was going to do my yoga and stretching, but I decided to follow my hunches because I'm thinking it's very possible to do this with a microwave or with a 3 trillion watt laser, which one of my friends that I really like having told me that I well, he was insinuating I might be delusional about this thing being existence. And then the government, someone in the the Pentagon or someplace admitted that we actually have those 3 trillion watt lasers. So exoneration for Doc. Oh, let's give Doc a pat so he feels. Yeah, I'd feel better if there weren't so many lying a-holes in the government and the bureaucracies. And I do bombard them and the whole earth every day in light and love, which this earth is very, and I'm not the only one doing it. My friends at Pyramid Research Group 2020, check that out on Facebook. That's Linda and Reiki Rekop. Reiki is even a wiser elder than me because he has a few years on me, 2 or 3. But Linda doesn't. Anyway, but she's still very wise. He still wears tie-dye shirts too. Once in a while, I might even. That's something that goes back to the 60s. And if you weren't there, then you wouldn't know. But, okay, so that's what I think what's going on. And now they're really pushing the global warming and the big fat pumpkin head. Well, I used to call him a big fat pumpkin head. Now he's a big fat ketchup bottle. So one of those thinner and whiter ones. John Kerry is going around and spreading his baloney and denying he's flying around in a private jet, saying, "Well, I don't even own one." But yeah, but his wife does. And even if you don't own one, there's plenty of charter small planes. And they said, "Oh, wait." Then I heard, "Oh, his wife sold the plane," but that still doesn't mean he's not chartering these flights. No one's ever seen him on a common carrier, nor Bill Gates either. The other guy spewing his rancid baloney about climate change, and also the guy that's pushing insect. Also the guy that's bought up an unusual amount of the United States farmland, as have the Chinese. So I don't want either of them to have it. And this actually happened in Australia. And Australia, what they did is what I wish someone that had big enough testicles around here, or enough gumption. You don't have to have testicles. A woman could do it too, and maybe should do it. They can't. They took all that land that the Chinese had bought in Australia, and they didn't give them any compensation back for it. But with Biden, that's not going to happen because he's dependent on all that money to support his 3 mansions from no businesses that he has that would generate any money to do that. Unlike Trump, who has a lot of hotels that generate income. All right. So here's something. Do you want to make any comments on any of that?
Not at this moment.
Okay. So here's an interesting insight from a man called Scott Hodge. He said, solar and renewables cannot exist without subsidies. So who funds those subsidies? When the government gives a subsidy, does that money just manifest out of thin air, or does it come from the taxpayers? So it comes from the taxpayers, many of which, even if they wanted an electric vehicle, wouldn't be able to afford the $60,000 or $70,000 price tag. And
I can honestly say people need to look at the battery price for those things. If that battery stops charging, it's more than the worth of the car.
That's why a lot of people were trading along when the first battery car, the Prius, the Toyota Prius, people would charge them in, would turn them in before the battery went dead. Don't have to change it. You're right. That's because lithium is exceedingly expensive, and it's toxic as hell too. I wouldn't say it is as bad as atomic radiation, nuclear radiation, but it's definitely bad. Just like the metal on those windmills that they're put all over, and they've ruined the looks in the desert that I used to enjoy very much by putting them on all the ridge lines and all of that, where the wind of hills, where the winds will become stronger and all of that. Um, yeah, it's none of that metal can be recycled. So how can that be a green technology? It's chopping up a bunch of birds. Is that green? Is you know having those windmills, turbines, I would say, I'm just getting some input right now, probably has an effect on the weather in the area too. And it's seeming to have an effect on the whales are the ones they're putting out in the water on the East Coast. And they proposed something real close to me in Morro Bay, about a half an hour from where I live, where they want to do the same stupid thing. They want to put these turbines out, these wind turbines. And on the East Coast, commensurate with these wind turbines, there's an exceedingly high rate of death for the whales. So these are the same people that call themselves environmentalists, but they turn a blind eye when it comes to their project, their so-called renewable project, which isn't all that renewable. It's not recyclable. You can't recycle the lithium and the cobalt and the other things that they use in those really expensive solar batteries. And I would say, I would venture to say with great certainty that if Biden and his communist cronies, which they are commies, build back better, build from the inside out, build from the bottom up. Yeah, you build a building from the bottom up, that's true, and you need a strong foundation. But in building an economy, that comes from wealth generators that are usually higher up in your thing right now. So what you're basically talking about is mere babble. It doesn't work out in mathematics or arithmetic. It doesn't go that way. If you spend more money than you have and you borrow to do it, which the Federal Reserve does, then it's going to raise inflation. It's real simple. And so you don't have to, however, raise the interest rate to stop that inflation. All you have to do, the Federal Reserve could say, no, we're not going to fund this $3 or $4 trillion in excess money that you don't have. And all of a sudden, you would see that inflation evaporate. But they don't do it. You know why they don't do it? Do you have any idea why the Federal Reserve doesn't do that, Rebel?
They like to spin their wheels? I don't know.
They make interest off of it. They want us beholden to them. The United States already declared bankruptcy in 1933 or 1935. Technically, we're still a bankrupt government after the excesses of the late 20s in the economy there. So, I mean, they love their interest, and they're charging the government, and they're charging us on our credit cards. I know I'm going backwards on my credit cards right now, just by the few percentage point that it went up. I was starting to get them paid down, and now I'm not. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Either well, it's hard to get rid of credit card debt in bankruptcy right now. But that law should be repealed. They passed that law a decade or two ago at the behest of the banks. And but you know what else? The banks are also, the small banks are also getting screwed by this increase in the interest rate, because they bought long-term treasury securities, and then though the interest they were getting was less than the interest that they had to pay to get money from the Federal Reserve. So it's an endless, nasty cycle. And then the so-called financial reset, I've heard about different things where I read that 98% of the countries of the world are looking at or are considering or in the active process of creating a digital currency. That means no more dollar bills. That means any money you get goes into your bank account. That means that gives the government the possibility of controlling what you buy. Some people have even suggested and I don't think it's too far-fetched, that they will say they will make you buy something in certain part of the economy to stimulate that, even though you don't really want it. Otherwise, you can't spend your money. And we know how we all like to spend our money. Most of us can't save it. Most of us like to spend it. And hopefully, well, a lot of people right now are actually, I heard, buying, not with credit cards, but they're buying their groceries and stuff on credit. Okay. I don't know. It must be being something run through the grocery stores or something like that. How much time? 10 minutes. Okay. I'm not going to get to the book. Maybe I will be ready next week. Okay. So, got some interesting stuff today, or yet a few days ago, about enhancing the amount of electrons in your body to create more energy. And this made a lot of sense because it's something I've done through learning and mastering and then teaching Kriya Kundalini Yoga and a specific thing called pranayama, where by extending the breath, you're breathing more electromagnetic energy or prana into the body. And this electromagnetic energy, which is atoms and all of that, also have these electrons. And as they're a source to power things inside of a house, electrical appliances and things like that, they will also do a body. So one way, the ways that they listed on there that would help to do that would be being in the sun a lot, walking on the ground or on grass or something like that, and you will take electrons up. Was also an article I came across about 5 or 10 years ago that showed when you put your hands into the dirt, when you're working, planting things and stuff, you are getting negative ions, and you would probably also be getting electrons through that. Commensurate with that, I mean, the negative ions are an electrical charge anyway, so a negative electrical charge. So, also walking on the beach, different things like that, getting as much sun. Well, this pranayama that I teach, it's described a little bit at www.positivelifewithyoga.com. And it's through this breathing that I teach in workshop, 2-day workshops. I teach this pranayama breath, and that has 6 components to it that all work together that charge your body up and also put you in a better brainwave in the the alpha theta range, the alpha being 7 to 13 hertz and theta being 4 to 7 hertz. So you charge your body up and you charge up your mental and your mind capacities and abilities, creativity, writing, artistic things, solving problems. All of this is more. So if you're interested in sponsoring one of those in your area, contact me at my website, www.drrobertnewton.com, and let's get something going, because once you learn that, then I have a whole range of other classes that you will be prepared to do, and including at the speed of light learning, which I can pretty much guarantee that you can learn to absorb the contents of a book after a weekend with me doing that workshop in about 4 to 6 minutes. And I'll also show you some hacks that I learned that make it even easier to do than the way I was taught. And I also have a sexual bliss class that's related to that. And the essential thing for that is that pranayama breath, which is whatever you breathe in, you breathe out twice as long. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is a certain position, so what are called mudras, which are things you do inside and outside your body that allow that to occur. And then I also teach, yeah.
We have 5 minutes, but we have a question. How soon do you think the meat, this meat you were talking about earlier, is going to hit the stores?
They said it's not ready for the stores simply because of the price point. But I'm sure if they can figure that out, they will. Well, maybe the government can subsidize that like they do the electrical cars that only the rich people can afford to, or the middle upper class can afford to buy. Yeah. But believe me, electrical car wasn't that long ago. I was getting ready to also talk about a better way to power a car would be through hydrogen. Also, I just saw this thing. I'll get back to the hydrogen. I saw this thing that it was in a newspaper. It showed Tesla had created an electrical car in a Pierce Arrow automobile. I think this was in 1920. That they said he pulls etheric electricity from the sky to run the vehicle. I've had this idea in my mind for about 10 years now. And my electrical engineer friend shoots me down every time. He says, well, you can't create enough amperage to do it. But I think that I have a way to do it. I might go to the Tesla conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I think it's in about a month or two, and try and run my ideas along some of the researchers right there. But that would be way more intelligent than that nasty battery, right, Rebel?
Yes, most definitely.
Costly, nasty battery, toxic battery. All right, so hydrogen is very abundant. It's the most abundant element in the universe. Its molecule is one atom. In other words, water is H2O, so 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Although I've also talked about water that will vitalize the body, H2O2, which is basically hydrogen peroxide, and H3O2, which is called easy water. And hydrogen cars actually exist, but I think they need, you can pull a certain amount out of the sky, but I think at the existing technology, you need electricity to help split the hydrogen from water or something like that, which is the most convenient way to do it. If you're storing huge tanks of hydrogen, it's highly explosive, and hence the hydrogen bomb is way more powerful than the bomb that was created by Robert Oppenheimer and Einstein and other scientists as well. I'm not going to watch that movie otherwise. By the way, the movie, damn it, I forgot the name of it. Let's see if I can find it. It's about the child trafficking. It actually outperformed the Indiana Jones movie, which had twice double the locations. I think they did 12.1 million in 1 week, whereas Indiana Jones did 11.5 or something like that. So this is a big thing for me, and has been for a long time. This is a part of the Biden administration. There's no way around it. Number 46, and his perverted ideas about children and all of these things, including his own children, we have evidence at least one was abused, and by extension, I'm pretty sure Hunter was as well. So anyway, thanks for listening to the show. Spread the word around. I think the last time I checked, there was over 1,000. A couple weeks ago, there were over 1,000 people listening to the show. Let's make it into the millions so that we can get some sanity on this earth and get a lot more light and love on this planet where everyone shares in the prosperity, not just the Democrat grifters. All right, have a great day. Namaste, namaskar, shalom, salam alaikum.